Thank you for joining us on the New Bridge Radio Show. You can also catch us online at newbridgeradio.com. Find us on Facebook under New Bridge Radio Show or follow us on Twitter at New Bridge Radio. Now let's connect you with what's next.
Welcome back to the New Bridge Radio Show. I'm your host, Kevin Mackey, and we are connecting you to what's next in your life. And I want to say a huge thank you to our special guest last week, Linda G., the Comanche Psychic. She came and was gracious enough to be on the show, and it ended up being our most downloaded podcast so far. And so I'm very appreciative of her and for her mentioning us on her YouTube channel. Thank you, Linda G. I hope you'll come back, and I hope that you had a chance to listen to that podcast. If you did not get a chance, you can certainly find it still there on www.newbridgeradio.com, and you can find all of our past episodes there as well. If you didn't get a chance to listen to Jeffrey Seelman, you can certainly listen to that as well. Or you can also find us on your most popular podcast platform. We are on all of them. We're on TuneIn, we are on Apple, we are on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're on most of them. So just look us up there. And you know what? And experiment, because some of them sound so much better. I'm shocked at some. So I try to go and listen to the podcast on each of them. And some I'm actually shocked at how much improved the sound quality comes out. So anyway, so thank you. So today we'll be discussing guiding principles. We'll discuss the final 8 guiding principles that I adopted as my own during my college years, some years way back, and we'll just do a brief review of the 7. It has been an interesting week. We still have quarantine happening across the country, and a lot of people are dealing with new circumstances that they find themselves in. And I understand there might be a lot of angst still, as we don't know where all of this is going to wind up or end. And it's interesting. So I feel really fortunate to be able to work from home and be able to do my job. And I understand that there are others out there that may not have the same circumstances, and I sure feel for you. And I'm going to be posting a little track to the Bridge Radio Show Facebook page. And it's just a little inspirational track. It's something that I play when I don't know what to do. And, it's interesting how music does that for us. It kind of grounds us and lets us think new thoughts. So I have an instrumental piece of music that I'm going to put there for you. And if you're having kind of a lot of anxiety, just go to the Facebook and type in Bridge Radio Show, Kevin Mackey, and you will find me. And you'll see a link to a YouTube video there that has that song, and just feel free to play it. It's probably better if you put some headphones on and listen to it with headphones, because you'll like it a ton better. Anyway, so that's there for you. So here in Bothell, it's been really difficult to find bar soap. I'm not sure if it's the same where you live. In the past week, I went to all the big stores and couldn't find any. No soap at Albertsons or Safeway, but there is. I even went to the dollar store. I'm like, oh man, everyone's washing their hands, so much so that there's no soap. So there's no soap this week. So we have to figure out new and creative ways. Maybe a diluted Dawn mixture, Dawn dish soap, all kinds of things. Like, oh, I didn't use this shampoo. I'll just clean my hands with that. All kinds of things. People are becoming resourceful in these quarantine days. And so, a lot of people are isolated at home and can't really get out. Like my mother. My mother is, I think I mentioned this last week, my mother is 76. And she lives in a senior apartment complex. And it's not an assisted living complex. It's, it's subsidized apartments for seniors. And she lives there, and she has a great apartment there. And so for the last 3 weeks, I've been FaceTiming her and taking her on my trail walks, because I usually walk through the forest on the weekends. So I took her and FaceTimed her and took her on the show with me, or on the trail with me. And she does get a kick out of it. So there's this place called the Mill Creek Reserve, and it's a nature reserve, and it has some of the most ancient maple trees in it, and it's interesting. It's almost like being in a fairy tale, because the trees are bent and twisted and covered with moss and covered with ferns, and it's just such an interesting place to look and to be. And it has such a great energy to it. And there's a stream running through it and bridges that cross it. So it's a great place to go and walk in. And it's paved. So, a lot of people of a certain age can go through there and easily navigate their way through it. Plus, it has a really, really steep hill. And I usually climb this really steep hill. And I'm not sure what the grade is. I think somebody told me once that it's a 17% grade. It could be, but it's super, super steep. And it's probably the meanest thing that I do to my middle-aged body is go up that hill and climb it and climb it and climb it. And it's so steep that right when you're like maybe 20 feet from the summit of this hill, you're like, oh, I'm ready to give up. I just can't. Or you feel like you need a big giant rope thrown to you to get up to the end. And every time I'm walking with my mother will be, "Are you okay? Boy, you're just huffing and a puffing." And I'm like, "I'm fine. It's just a really, really steep hill." But and one day I was there, and there was a man probably older than me, maybe a good 10 years older than me, walking behind me, and he was coming up there at a clip. I was like, oh my gosh, this old man is coming for me. And, so being a little bit younger, I'm like, well, I'm not going to let this old man pass me. It became like a contest, but you know what? I felt so horrible the next day. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So I know, if that happens again, I'm not going to participate in that, because boy, there was a big payment the next day. So anyway, that's my walking adventure. And I do love that place, though. I love going through there. And even what I do like is I love going through there when it's raining, because when it's raining, no one else is there. And you know what? I just have my great big giant umbrella, and I just go through there with my waterproof shoes, and it's amazing. It's even better in the rain sometimes. And that's the thing I like about hiking in the rain. You're pretty much there by yourself. It's a great thing. So for us, we do spring cleaning in the spring, which is convenient and awful, and we don't really look forward to it, but that's how we spent our weekend. I'm recording this on Sunday, and so we do this thing. We rent the Rug Ductor, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Rug Ductor. It's this carpet extractor you can rent from like grocery stores, and it's red, and it has like Rug Ductor shampoo, but don't ever get the Rug Ductor shampoo. Just get regular Tide, not Tide with bleach, just the regular Tide, and put that in the Rug Ductor. And just it's just like washing clothes. You just run the Rug Ductor over and you wash your carpets, and it does a great job. It really cleans it well. It does better than the soap that you get with the Rug Ductor. And plus, the Rug Ductor soap is really expensive. So we do that. We try to do that at least twice a year. But you know what was so interesting? When you're doing that process, you have to move furniture, and vacuum around there and get it all clean before you bring in the carpet shampooer. And so that's kind of my job. I'm the pilot. I vacuum first, and then it gets shampooed after that. But you know what? So I use a rainbow vacuum cleaner, and I probably picked up like 3 pounds of dog hair just with the rainbow. I'm like, oh my gosh. You move furniture, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how filthy we are. Look at all this dust under there. It's really enlightening. And in my office, I had a blind. And I bet the blind, it was one of those blinds, those little plastic blinds, vertical blinds, but that I think it's probably been on that window since the house was built in 1982. So, it's just falling, I was afraid to touch it because it just is so unstable, and you can see where the little thread in it was coming apart, and, I don't know why, and it was terrible. It was dusty, and I don't know why I've kept it up there for so long. So, we decided to retire it, so the blind is gone, and the window is washed behind it, and boy, that was like really disgusting. So we got it all clean, and now there's a brand new curtain up there, and it's bright red, and it's making me very happy as I'm sitting here recording this podcast. I'm like, ooh, this is so nice, not having to look up at that dirty, filthy blind that's now sitting on the deck. Who knows what we'll do with that? But anyway, it's gone, and that's one nice thing about cleaning. So the other thing I found, and this was enlightening for me, is I found I don't need another jacket probably for the rest of my life. I don't know how I've accumulated them all. I'm like, I have more jackets and more jackets. So in my office, I have a closet that is full of jackets. And there is a hall closet that is full of jackets. And then there's a closet upstairs that's full of jackets. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been like hoarding jackets and didn't even know. And there's at least a dozen winter coats. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to wear all these. And it's interesting because when it's winter and it's cold, I only wear one winter coat. And maybe you're this way too. So I have a LL Bean winter coat. It's red. It used to be brilliant bright red, but it's so old. It's barely red now. And you know what? I think I've probably had it for 20 years. It could be that old. So I bought it back when LL Bean used to make put wooden buttons on everything. So it's like an old style LL Bean jacket, and it's got the wood buttons on it that go all the way down it. So you know the ones. You've probably bought LL Bean stuff yourself. But yeah, it's an old school jacket, and it has been so good to me over the last couple of decades. It's the only winter jacket I'll actually put on. But you know what? I also have one of those newfangled winter jackets that's really, really thin, but it has like the techie kind of lining that holds in your body heat. And, it's textured on the inside. It looks like something you'd find on a car doormat or something like that. It's really, really techy, and it's grooved in a way, and it's like got little foils in it. It's weird. And that will keep you warm for such a light jacket. You can find yourself in below zero weather and not shivering or anything, but it looks really weird. It looks really weird because it's kind of puffy. It's too puffy for me. I put it on like, oh, that coat is too puffy. But anyway, and then I have a long winter jacket that I rarely ever use because I'm always afraid it'll get ruined, which I don't know why. I'm like, I just don't want to wear it because it's going to get ruined. Yeah. We all have little clothes like that, oh, I don't want to wear it because it's going to get ruined. Anyway, the weird things that we do with clothes, right? Like, oh, I don't want to wear that, it'll ruin it. So anyway, well, we are coming up on our first break, and we're going to have to tiptoe away and play some words from our sponsors, our lovely sponsors that we have, and hear some affirmations to help us through this quarantine time in our life. And all of the affirmations are for you, my friend, so that you can muster your way through all of this new craziness we find ourselves in. So we will tiptoe away, and we will be right back after these messages.
New Bridge Radio, connecting you with what's next.
Go on and assure yourself. Give yourself permission to succeed, or make as many mistakes as you need to. Keep on keeping on. It's just a bad day, not a bad life. Mackey Reiki is a full-service Reiki therapy center offering both in-person and distance Reiki sessions. Reiki is a gentle healing energy that can assist in clearing, repairing, and maintaining energy that is vital for optimal health. Reiki can also assist with anxiety, depression, and even addiction. You can schedule a Reiki session by visiting our website, www.mackeyreiki.com. That's www.mackeyreiki.com. You remain balanced under extreme stress. It will be okay. I promise. You are confident and everything is going your way now. Mackey Reiki is a full-service Reiki therapy center now offering QHHT sessions. Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique was developed by hypnotist Dolores Cannon. QHHT can assist in expanding your awareness and help in discovering and removing emotional blocks. Find your life purpose by scheduling a QHHT session on our website at www.mackeyreiki.com. That's www.mackeyreiki.com. Believe in yourself and create your own destiny. Don't fear failure. You will create a home full of joy and peace.
Your inner vision is always clear and focused.
Every atom of your being is resonating with joy and happiness. Welcome back to the New Bridge Radio Show. I'm your host, Kevin Mackey, and this week we are once again talking about guiding principles. And I have to apologize right off the bat because being spring, it's also pollen time and allergy time. And boy, I've been having a rough go of it this year. Last week I was just sneezing uncontrollably. So I've been able to keep it together for this first part, and hopefully I'll be able to do it for this next block. But you might hear me sniffle or something, or sound like I'm wheezing, but it's just allergies. And you know what? These days, if you start sneezing or you cough and you're around people, boy, they will move away from you fast. Like, oh my gosh, it's just allergies. It's just allergies. It's nothing. But anyway, so hey, we're going to talk about guiding principles again. And you may have remembered me talking about this a couple of weeks ago, about the guiding principles that helped me, that I adopted as my own during college. And you may have remembered me talking about Beatrice Davis and being the most powerful communicator I've ever come across. I don't think I've ever come across someone quite like her. And if you went to Regis and you know who she is, feel free to email me at the New Bridge Radio Show at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you had her for a class. So anyway, I'll just recap for you. There are 15 guiding principles that I adopted for myself. And the first 7 we went over already. And if you did not catch that podcast, you can go back and listen to it on www.newbridgeradio.com. And just go to the NBR podcast at the top, and you will find it there. You will find the guiding principles. I believe it's episode 7, volume 3, episode 7. You can find it there, and it's good. You'll like it. I don't know why it's one of the top downloaded podcasts for some reason. So yeah, you'll find it there. So the first 7 podcasts, and I'll just briefly explain this again, come from neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming came from Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And they were psychologists and hypnotherapists, and they started studying people who were normal, highly functioning people. And they learned from studying highly functional people, they learned how to help people become highly functional people. So they based their NLP practice on that, creating models for success from people who were successful. So that's the NL, neuro-linguistic programming. It's about programming yourself with winning techniques or traits so that you can be successful. And there are 13 presuppositions in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And you can find them on the web. They've evolved over the years, but you can search on presuppositions of NLP and you will find them. But they mean different things to some people. But so I have the NLP presuppositions, and then I have my own. I have my own that I've come up with in my life. So just to recap the first 7 that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Number 1, the map is not the territory. People always respond to their experience and not necessarily to reality itself. And that just allows you to think, oh, yeah, this person is just responding to their map, not necessarily reality. Having a choice is better than not having a choice. And that's about allowing yourself as many choices as you can. It's about giving yourself the opportunity to have opportunities. Number 3, people make the best choice they can at the time. And people do. People will make the best choice for themselves as they can at the time. Presupposition 4, people work perfectly. No one is broken. They are carrying out their strategies perfectly, but the strategies may be poorly designed and ineffective. Number 5, all actions have a purpose. Our actions are not random. We are always trying to achieve something, although we may not be aware of what that is. Number 6, every behavior has a positive intention. A person is not their behavior. When a person has a better choice of behavior, that also achieves their positive intention. They will take it. And lastly, number 7, what we talked about was the unconscious mind balances the conscious. It is not malicious. And I learned that especially studying QHHT and hypnosis. The unconscious mind is very helpful, and it contains all of the resources we need to overcome. And if you haven't played around with that, definitely do. So today we'll be starting out with presupposition number 8. The meaning of the communication is not simply what you intend, but also the response you get. In other words, the meaning of your communication is the response you get. And what that means is the response may be different to the one you wanted. There are no failures in communication, only responses and feedback. If you are not getting the result you want, change what you are doing. Take responsibility for the communication. And I love this one because it was a challenge, especially in college, to communicate, especially when you're dealing in small work groups with people who are really, really different than you. It's interesting to interact with them. And I adopted a tool in college called DISC personality, DISC, DISC personality typing. And if you can figure out somebody's DISC type, you can usually communicate pretty easily with them. If you can figure out, I'm dealing with a dominant personality, or I'm dealing with a subject personality, or I'm dealing with a critical mind, you can understand how to best communicate with them. Now, if you can go one step further and figure out somebody's astrological sign, you've got them. Because if you can find that out, you know basically everything there is to know about them. And if you know more about them than they know about you, you can control the communication. And it's just as simple as that. If you know more about them than they know about you, you can control the communication. Also, if you know more about them than they know about themselves, you can control them. So I'll just leave that there. Number 9, we already have all the resources we need, or we can create them. And what that is saying is there are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful states of mind. And sometimes it can be very easy for people to get in unresourceful states of mind. And pulling them out, especially even ourselves, we can get into unresourceful states of mind. And believe me, I was there a couple of years ago, dealing with a job I hated. And you know what it was torture. I will never do that again, ever. I always have to remember that, and I always anytime I hear that presupposition, I always think about what Maya Angelou said. Education is a currency that you can spend in any economy, and she's right. She is definitely right. After college, I went to another class in paralegal training. So believe it or not, I'm a paralegal. I'm a trained paralegal, or I have a certification in it. So always keep learning, because the more you learn, the more powerful you become as a communicator and as a worker. And if you're really young, always try to create your own income. Have your own way of supporting yourself rather than work for a company, because that is so much better. Because working on your own is freer in a lot of ways. So preposition. Number 10, mind and body form a system. They are different expressions of the one person. Mind and body interact and mutually influence one another. It is not impossible to make a change in one without being affected. When we think differently, our bodies change. When we act differently, we change our thoughts and feelings. And that is true. If you think about drug testing and how they test new drugs, they always have a control group that they give a placebo. And a lot of times they find that the placebo does every bit as good as the drug, or in some cases it does even better, which is the interesting thing about drug studies. And I think there is a book about this, and I'll have to go back and look, but I think there is a book called Placebo that is about what people's belief in their mind is what actually cures them. And there was I don't know, people, if you're around my age, you probably know the TV show MASH. And there was a MASH episode where they didn't have any pain pills. They were totally out of them. So what they did in that episode of MASH is they were giving the soldiers sugar pills, and they were just telling the soldiers, these are very, very potent, and you'll probably feel yourself going rather quickly. And they were finding in that little episode that the soldiers were responding to the pain pills. And I wonder, and I've always wondered, was that actually based on something that may have happened in the battlefield? It could be. It could be. Who knows? But our minds do powerful, powerful things. And now that I've been studying quantum healing hypnosis technique, now I know that even more. Because, so I'll just tell you this story real quick. Dolores Cannon had a woman come to her in Arkansas who was already in hospice. She had severe COPD. And they had just said, well, there's nothing more than that we can do for you. And she came to Dolores Cannon's house with one of those oxygen machines in tow because she needed it just to walk a few feet. She needed that oxygen in order to breathe. And she was there, and Dolores Cannon was doing the session, and they were having a terrible thunderstorm, huge thunderstorm, like they get in Arkansas. And despite the loud thunder and lightning strikes, this client was still in hypnosis. And I find that amazing that even in my own practice, that people will stay hypnotized no matter what. But anyway, so they were having a huge thunderstorm, and all of a sudden the power went out in the house. And Dolores Cannon was a little bit shook by it because the oxy machine was already off. But the higher self of the woman had said, that's okay. You don't need to worry about this. We have healed the lung condition. And she no longer needs the oxygen. She won't require it. And sure enough, she didn't. And when she came out of the hypnosis, she ran around the table after she realized she didn't know it. And a year later, Dolores Cannon was in Hawaii. That same woman with the emphysema came to that training and ran around the room for everyone in that training. Isn't that amazing? The mind and body are a part of the same system, and they do amazing things. So, it looks like we're coming up against a break again. We are going to step away once more, and we will be right back after these messages.
Of all the podcasts in the world, we're definitely one of them. Ever wanted to host your own radio show? If your answer is yes, then the time to act is now. WLTK-DB Let's Talk is now accepting new programming, more affordable than ever. You create the show idea and we'll take care of the rest. Not only do we create your program intro, but also syndicate you to popular outlets like Apple and Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and more. You get all of this free. That's right, absolutely free. Contact us at WLTK-DB.com with your show idea and let's bring your dream to life. All topics accepted, and you have full rights to your program. Contact us today and reserve your spot on WLTK-DB Let's Talk. What are you waiting for? Let's do this.
You are a worthy person, and you attract joy into your life.
You are a beautiful, shining, confident light.
And now, 60 seconds of distance Reiki to assist you with mental clarity and emotional stability. Right where you are now, just close your eyes and feel the distance Reiki entering your crown chakra and moving throughout your body. Feel the gentle energy of Reiki easing your mind and bringing emotional stability to you right where you are now. Just allow any negative emotions or thoughts that you've been dealing with throughout the day to be transmuted with the energy of light and love that Reiki brings. Accept this loving gift from your good friends at the Bridge Radio Show. Life is worth the risk. You can accomplish anything that you set your mind to. You have the courage to be who you really are and share your truth with the world.
You are unstoppable and capable of doing whatever it takes.
Welcome back to the New Bridge Radio Show. I'm your host, Kevin Mackey, and during the break, I went to the kitchen and I made myself some chai coffee. And there's this pre-brew coffee mixture, coffee spice, you can find at the grocery store. I think it's Simply Organic, and it's chai spice, and there are other spices in there. But that chai spice will help you if you deal with allergies or allergy symptoms. You can put it in either your coffee or you can put it in tea. And when it brews through, it leaves a nice flavor to your coffee or your tea, and it helps with allergies. It definitely helps the symptoms of allergies kind of dissipate. And this week, boy, I've just been having trouble left and right. I've barely made it through this show because it's like, oh, I'm gonna sneeze, and then it's just, it's not just one sneeze. It's like dozens and dozens and dozens of sneezes. That's kind of been my state, so I've been walking around with a great big box of puffs because of the allergy stuff. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And I'm still sniffly. And if you are in the same boat, boy, I feel your pain, because this can be a really miserable time of year. But, and this, we'll get back to the guiding principles later, but there's something else you can do. There's a little bit of acupressure that I can teach you. So there's an acupressure point right on your right-hand side, on your right eyebrow, right where your right eyebrow starts by the bridge of your nose, by your forehead and the bridge of your nose. There's a pressure point there. And if you feel yourself congested or starting to sneeze, or you don't want to sneeze, you can just put pressure on that point right there where your eyebrow starts, and it will help drive away the sneezing attack. And I'll do this, especially if I'm having an allergy attack when I'm sleeping, I'll put my finger there in that little pressure point, and it can help me stop. There's also a second one right in your tear duct, pretty much close to your tear duct. And if you do those two together, it looks really weird, but you can do those two acupressure points, and it will kind of help you overcome the super sneezy attack. And also definitely have a hot beverage. A hot beverage will help you overcome sneezing attacks. And when I learned this when I was young, because when I was young, I was in the hospital all the time for asthma and allergies. And there used to be a hospital in Denver, the National Jewish Hospital. And, I was there quite a bit. And they would give you a hot drink, hot chocolate, or sometimes a little herb tea, a little hot tea. And that would help you overcome your allergy attack. And it often works. It's something I still rely on to this day as a hot beverage. Only coffee now or tea, and it definitely helps me kind of bring myself back from the abyss. Anyway, and also Reiki. Reiki is fantastic, and as a Reiki practitioner, I'll just turn it on and put it right over my... It's better. If you're a Reiki practitioner, try this on yourself. Or your clients. I'm sure you probably do. But if you put your hand and turn your Reiki on and put it over your right eye, that will also clear up the sinuses, as well as if you just kind of put your hand over your eye and your nose at the same time. It can also do the same thing. Reiki is the most amazing energy ever. I never get enough of finding out new things it will do. I'll probably spend the rest of my life being taught by Reiki, and I'm sure a lot of other Reiki people feel the same way. Oh my gosh, Reiki is doing this or doing that, and it's an amazing thing. It's like a lifelong learning process with Reiki. It really is, because you learn different things about Reiki, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how good that feels. Because Reiki really can help, especially if you have cramped muscles or you deal with pain. Reiki can certainly help you overcome those. So it's great. It's great energy. I'm lucky and fortunate to be called to Reiki because I love it. So anyway, we are continuing with guiding principles. And I just gave a summary of the 7 guiding principles we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we first did guiding principles. and gave you that. And I'll give you a quick summary of the 8 that we're doing now. The meaning of your communication is always the response you get. If you're not getting the response you need, change the communication. Also, we already have all of the resources we need. Nobody is unresourceful. We can create the resources if we don't have them. Also, mind and body form a system. And we were just talking about somebody in QHH2 who was in hospice because of COPD and was on death's door until they came and saw Dolores Cannon. And during a QHHT session, their lungs were completely regenerated. And that sounds crazy, but it actually did happen, and there are a number of people that will talk about it because hypnosis can be powerful. And even before Dolores Cannon came along with QHHT, they were curing a lot of maladies with hypnosis. Emile Coulet was a French hypnotist who was actually curing quite a few people with just hypnosis. And our minds are powerful, powerful, creative things, and they can do a lot. They can create a lot of really great healing and freedom. They can also create prisons for people. People can become trapped in their minds because their minds are powerful, powerful, creative devices. And it is so fascinating to learn more and more about what the mind can do. And I'll talk a little bit more about that because there's something I've been studying for a couple of weeks now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such an interesting topic. And I really want to have a guest come in, and I want him to talk about thought forms. Because it's interesting what thought forms are, and you know that thought forms can eventually, the more energy that's added to them, the more they can operate independent of the consciousness that created them. Interesting, no? Like there are a lot of powerful thought forms that have been circulating the planet for a long time. So anyway, but I digress. We won't get into that now. I'm looking for a guest who can kind of explain thought forms, how they're created, how they work, because, it's one of the most fascinating things ever. But anyway, let's continue with the guiding principle number 11. Anything can be accomplished by breaking it down into its component parts. Breaking things down, or chunking, is an effective way of understanding any process, system, or body of knowledge. And that is absolutely true. And I have used this since college. If you break something down into its component parts, it becomes easier and easier. And I also went to culinary school. And in culinary school, there is something called mise en place. And if you went to culinary school and you just heard me say mise en place, you're probably having PTSD. Because you heard that word every single day in culinary school. Mise en place. Let's mise this recipe. And so what you're doing with mise en place, you're getting all of your ingredients and everything you need to make the recipe beforehand. So you're getting your pots, your pans, your ingredients measured out. Everything is together before you actually start creating your recipe. That's what mise en place is. So it's like chunking things down. And if someone were going to be a project manager or take on projects, I would recommend going to culinary school over doing Sigma training, because culinary school teaches you so much. Like it teaches you troubleshooting on a level that is like you can't get from a normal computer program. It teaches you a lot of troubleshooting, especially when recipes go wrong. You're just like, oh, how am I going to fix this? So it's great training, and it's great training for chunking things down. And when I first had the idea to create a podcast, I didn't know how to create a podcast. I'm like, oh, it sounds like a good idea. And so first I had to kind of study it and figure out, okay, this is what they do. This is how they make it up. It seems that it flows into this and this and this. And then I finally could chunk it down into what it is. And I've said this before, and I always chunk everything down on 4x6 index cards. And that just comes from going to culinary school where you write recipes down on those cards. So as long as I have 4x6 index cards, I can chunk anything down. Like, oh, I need this step and this step and this step and this step. This is how I get it done. It works better than probably any project management app that there is. And the nice thing about those 4x6 cards, when you chunk them down, you can put them into regular photo albums. So you have your project with you everywhere, and it's in a binder, and the cards don't fall out. To me, it's the best project management tool you can get. And boy, this little show is going by so fast because it looks like we're just about ready for another break. So we are going to tiptoe away one last time, and we are going to hear from our sponsors and hear some affirmations, and we will be right back after this.
The New Bridge Radio Show. Even your Virgo friends will like it. Who out there wants to get social with us? Well, it just may be closer to your radio home than you think. Introducing the new station Social Time. Social Time is built into the station's website and operates similar to Facebook and Twitter. So now that you already know how to use our Social Time, visit the station's website and register free. Create your own page or group, share photos and videos with your friends, and so much more. The best part about our Social Time is it's right here on your favorite radio station's website. Yes, it's ours, not theirs. And we invite you to join our quickly growing community. To register, just visit WLTK-DB.com, click on the main menu, click Register, fill out a bit about yourself, and you're in. WLTK-DB Social Time. Head over there now and register free. Come on, let's talk.
Take a deep breath and just relax. Be in this moment. Be mindful. Be present. Allow yourself a moment of peace. You get to choose moment by moment what you create. You can create beauty in every moment and the following moment. Just allow yourself this moment of beauty. Whatever will be, will be. Try not to care what other people think of you. Don't ever give up. Everything worth doing is hard. You'll feel it when you know. Welcome back to the New Bridge Radio Show. We are once again talking about guiding principles. It's kind of Kevin's little guiding principles he adopted in college. And they were adopted years and years ago, and most of them come from the presuppositions of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming again came from Richard Bandler and John Grinder. They wrote a book in the 70s called The Structure of Magic, Volume 1, where they talk about NLP and the discovery of studying healthy people to find out how to fix broken people. And it's You can find certified NLP trainers everywhere. Like, they're everywhere. And they have a website. It's nlp.org. You can go to nlp.org and find a certified NLP trainer next to you. You know, they're everywhere. They're all worldwide. And if you don't necessarily, your mind can create powerful situations. So, you can try this little experiment with anything. Like, say you're just washing the dishes, and you just use your imagination. Your imagination, and we'll talk about this in another show. Your imagination is connected to your intuition. They're interchangeable. They're part of the same system somehow. So in your imagination, you can collect an energy, an abundant energy. Like, say you're doing the dishes and you just say in your mind, I'll collect this abundant energy and I'll release it in this as I'm doing these dishes, and it'll be the best dishwashing episode and the time will go by so fast. You can do that kind of thing, that kind of modeling in NLP, and just see what your outcome is. See if it makes a difference. You can always do those little things, assure yourself in your mind, and give yourself the courage or the pep talk you need to do something. And it actually works. So, which brings us actually to our next presupposition, is modeling successful performance leads to excellence. And if one person can do something, it is possible to model and teach it to others. In this way, everyone can learn to get better results in their own way. You do not become a clone of the model. You learn from them. That is one of the best presuppositions ever. If you want to be a faster reader, you just have to study how faster readers read. And it will give you the insight you need to improve your own reading speed. There are lots of things where that is the situation. If you look at modeling successful performance, you can usually learn a lot. Like, if there's somebody in this world that you admire, that you like, that you feel is a good communicator, take the time to study them. Study what they believe, study how they become successful. Just take the time to learn what they have learned and apply that to your own situation, which is why it's important and of value to find those people who inspire you and keep your mind active and going. What would make me a better something, or how would I be a better cook, or how would I be this? It will make you a more interesting person to other people, and it will make you more self-assured. And the more self-assured you are, the freer you are. So for most of us, this is all about freedom, and gaining freedom in ourselves and in our being and in our house and in our business, greater freedom. We all, on some level, are freedom-seeking beings. Freedom is liberation. Liberation is, in a way, love, because love liberates. So everything is freedom and liberation. So modeling successful performance leads to excellence. That is guiding principle number 12. Guiding principle number 13. If you want to understand, act. The learning is the doing. And this has been a lifelong thing for me. If I don't understand, act, do something about it. In 2009, I was unexpectedly laid off. And I handled it very poorly. For a good 2 weeks, I had a huge cache of wine bottles, and I just sat in the basement and I drank wine and I ate junk, and I just watched every single episode of Heroes. And it was very unproductive, and I was going over and over in my mind, well, did I do something wrong? I was having stuck in this rut oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? And in order to get out of it, I had to act. I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? What do I need to do now? How do I get myself out of this rut? And for me, what I figured out is, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do something fun. I'm going to figure out how to do something fun. And I figured out how to go to culinary school. And that's what I did. I went to culinary school for a year. And if you yourself have thought about it or had a yearning to do it, do it. You will never regret it. Going to culinary school was so much fun. Yeah, it's a blast. It's a lot of work, but you do have an awful lot of fun, and you learn so many life skills that you can carry over to just about everything. So that is guiding principle number 13. If you want to understand, act. Now, this guiding principle is my own. This is guiding principle number 14. The person or the element in a system with the most flexibility will have the most influence. And this is absolutely true. And everywhere I have ever worked, from the time I was probably 16, I have felt that this is true. The more flexible you are, the more influence you have. You know, when you go in and do the best you can, if you try to be as flexible as you can, you will have the most influence. It'll just naturally come. People will look to you to provide the answers. And, you know, I was part of a teenage work program in Greeley, Colorado, and I just went into that thing every day as a young person and did the best I can do. And as I've grown older, I find this trait in other people, and I always appreciate it. I always appreciate when people come in and do their best. And even though it might not pay off at that particular moment, it pays off later. And I tell this to people all the time. We went through a little 2.5 years probably of this situation at the company we used to work for where, oh, we're going to lay you off. We're going to lay you off in 2 months. And 2 months would come, oh, we didn't lay you off. We're going to lay you off in 2 more months or whatever it was. It was just this constant crazy making game of, well, you're not going to be laid off, but you will be laid off. And and a lot of people just kind of shut down. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to do my thing and I don't care. And they came in and some people slept. Some people did nothing. Some people didn't do, they became victims in their own sight. They had terrible attitudes. They showed up late. They took 2-hour lunches, all kinds of crazy things people did and just didn't care. But I could not be that way. I went in there. I did my best. I always made an effort to do what I was there to be paid for. I didn't, and I always did that with a good attitude and professionalism and flexibility. And I found that I was rewarded later for it. A lot of the people who had that attitude about being laid off are still looking for work 2 years later. They're still looking for work and haven't found anything for 2 years, and that's a long time. And now here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and they're still not working. And I left grateful and went on, and I just decided to rest a bit. And I walked through the forest and made breakfast for my dogs and didn't worry about it, and decided to cash out my 401k and took a whole year learning a new QHHT modality. And in the end, I easily found another job, and one that I like. So it always pays off. If you have flexibility, it will pay off in the end. Don't worry. Even if nobody notices it, the universe does notice it. So guiding principle number 15, and this is my last guiding principle, and I hope you will keep this one under your hat. When all seems lost, believe nothing and entertain possibilities. Don't let yourself be trapped. Entertain possibilities and use your imagination. This will get you out of any kind of rut you might be in. Because if you let yourself go negative, you can be stuck into a really terrible place. But if you entertain possibilities, you will get yourself unstuck. Just in your mind's eye and in your imagination, imagine if the best thing could happen? What if the best thing could happen? What would it look like? What would it feel like to you if the best thing happened? And especially now that we find ourselves in this weird circumstance, if all seems lost, believe nothing, entertain possibilities. And that is our last guiding principle. And if you've made it with me to this point, I cannot thank you enough, dear listener. Thank you for coming on this journey. Thank you for listening to me talk about guiding principles. I hope that they have been a benefit to you, and I hope that you'll use them. And most of all, I hope that I'll once again meet up with you next week on the New Bridge Radio Show. Thank you so much for your time. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform. Good night and have a good week.